Hey guys, Fallen Messiah here and welcome to another Diablo 4 build guide. This is probably going to be the last build guide of the season. However, as always, once they announce the PTR for Season 10, I will be participating there and you can definitely expect a couple of build guides from the PTR as well, which is a practice that I've been doing for a couple of seasons now. Now, in this build guide, we're focusing our efforts on Barbarian, probably the most neglected class in this entire season, which is unfortunate because Barb has always been one of my favorite classes to play. They offer so much variety and just sheer raw power, leaning fully into this fantasy of a gargantuan warrior is something that really appeals to me. So if you're a fan of that fantasy as well, this time I have a Frenzy Barbarian for you. This is a build that I wanted to make ever since they introduced the brand new item called Hooves on the Mountain God. However, even though most meta has been focused on launching Strike, I really wanted to make a dedicated Frenzy Barbarian because I always loved that spell. All the way back from Diablo 2, just the ability to attack super fast is something that I really love, and I lean fully into that playstyle with this guide. We're attacking up to 7, 8, 10 times a second. It's a blast. I'm gonna have everything for you out there, so just sit back and relax as I take you through everything you need to know, everything from skills, items, Paragon, and more, as is per usual on this channel. If you're new here, welcome. If not, welcome back. We just hit 400 subs, which is a huge milestone for this channel. The aim is to continue to grow and to get up to 500 by the end of August. So if you like this kind of content, please consider dropping that like and subscribe to the channel because it really helps me out tremendously. It motivates me and it tells me that you like these kind of videos, which means that I will keep making them. Anyway, that's gonna be it for the intro. Let's get straight into the build itself. So just a quick overview of this build. We are using our Frenzy to attack as fast as possible. So let me just look how fast we're attacking, and we're not even fully buffed. So you're gonna see this gets even crazier. The skill itself actually allows us to attack up to 60%. A couple of extra attack speed on gear, you will find that this goes actually even harder, even crazier. There are three main variants of the build. First one uses mythic items. They are not necessary, but they do elevate the build, and we do use 4. So this is not a cheap build to make. This build focuses on stacking our Fury. So as you can see, I have 432. With the elixir, that's 457. Thanks to our adaptability aspect on our amulet, we gain tons of extra damage per point of resource. So this build is not cheap or easy to assemble. It requires some time, it requires good tempers, good masterworks, and good affixes as well. But this is perfect build for mid-season. So if you already have your main character, you have extra masterworking materials, you have extra time on your hands to assemble this properly. If you do, it's going to be really good. It does take some time, and until you hit certain things, until you hit good gear, you will struggle on Torment. So it's really gear dependent. That's the downside of this build. The upside, however, is that if you do set it up properly, it is really powerful, super fun to play, and also easily pivots into launching Strike, which is the current meta for the Barbs. So really, the gear is exactly the same and Paragon is exactly the same as on the most meta build this season. Anyway, we're gonna talk a little bit more about the gear requirements in the item portion. Let's first talk about skills. So we are going to be using our Frenzy. Our Frenzy is the star of the show, so the Frenzy itself gives us up to 60% increased attack speed, which can get even crazier. Going with enhanced Frenzy and also with combat just to get more damage reduction and more move speed makes the whole build even more insane. 1 point pressure point just so that we can get 3 points into Warpath. This is going to make sure that we deal more damage when we overpower, and our rune word will allow us to overpower on a very consistent basis. 3 points into Tempered Fury. As I explained earlier, this is just a direct multiplier. You want to make sure you have 3 points here. 3 points Imposing Presence and 3 points Martial Vigor for more damage reduction and life. 1 point into Rallying Cry, Enhanced and Tactical. This is just another direct multiplier because it gives us more Fury and more resource generation as well. Also more move speed, just in general. Rallying Cry is a really great spell for this build. 1 point into Challenging Shout. 1 point into Enhanced Challenging Shout. This gives us a chalk ton of damage reduction and life. It's not necessary, however. For the speed portion of the build, we actually replace Challenging Shout with Leap and Enhanced Leap. So if you're actually just speed farming and you don't need a ton of extra life and damage reduction, you can just replace it with Leap, and then every time you leap, as long as you don't hit any enemies, you basically leap once every 2 seconds, and things get really fast. You will have this version in the planner as well. Then we're gonna go with Warcry, Enhanced Warcry, and Power Warcry, just another huge source of damage multiplication. We put 3 points into Booming Voice to increase how long our shouts last, because they're really beneficial for us. 3 points into Swiftness, because this build is all about speed, attack speed, and move speed. 3 points into Aggressive Resistance. We're gonna put 3 points into Pit Fighter, 3 points into Slaying Strike, and 3 points into No Mercy. These are just another great source of damage multiplication for us. We are running Rupture. So Rupture, Enhanced Rupture, and Warrior Rupture. This is great for us because every time we hit an enemy with Rupture, it does 2 things. It spreads the Pain Gorger effects from our gloves, and also it gives us 40% attack speed, which just is tremendously stupid on this build. It gets even more crazy because this increases our attack speed by 5 seconds, and with enough cooldown reduction, we got the Rupture to 4 seconds. We actually have 100% uptime on this, which is pretty great. So we can go 2 points into Thick Skin, 3 points counter offensive, and 3 points defensive stance. Nice sources of damage multipliers for us. We're gonna put 3 points into Duelist, which is yet another source of attack speed for us, and also 5 points into Wrath of the Berserker, Prime Wrath, and Supreme. We want to make sure we have as close to 100% cooldown of the Wrath of the Berserker as possible. As you can see here, I did hit that. I have a cooldown of 10.8 seconds, and the effect lasts for 10 seconds. So basically, I have 0.8 second downtime, but with the Martial Paragon glyph and our shouts, it's actually always available. Now, this build leans into Shroud of False Death, which is the best item in the game. I actually even have a video that's around 20 minutes long where I dissect it in great detail and talk about how good it is. You can click somewhere around here to see if you're interested in that kind of a deep dive analysis. So we're using the Shroud instead of Rage of Harrogat. If you use Rage of Harrogat, then you will never really bother about cooldowns. It just instantly resets everything, but you absolutely can keep an uptime on the Wrath of the Berserker, even with the Shroud, which as you can see, I am actually doing, and you will see in the gameplay that it's always available as well. Uptime on the Wrath is super important because we gain Berserking, we gain Unstoppable. It also pulls the enemies forward and gives us more Fury in case we run out, because we have 2 items that actually drain Fury from us but provide damage while we do have it. So just overall keeping this uptime is really, really important. And finally we have Unconstrained, just a huge source of damage multiplication, and really the only good passive that Barbs have, to be quite honest. Alright guys, now let's talk about the item portion of this video. There is a lot of things to cover, so let's just get straight to it. As always, there will be a planner down below that you can reference anytime you want. Now this version is the ideal pit push version of the build, and it does use 4 mythics. You don't necessarily need them, you can play without them, and I have a version that has 0 mythics in the planner as well. And then, as you get more sparks and more mythics become available to you, even though the Shroud of False Death is usually the best item in the game, the priority is actually going to be Shaco first, Grandfather second, Shroud third, and then Ring of Starless Skies 4, in that order. So this is going to be the ideal best in slot version of the build. So anyway, let's just get straight to it. The first one is Shaco. It's probably one of the most important items here. It's so good for us because of 2 reasons. It gives us max resource, which is what we are stacking to do damage on this build, and also cooldown reduction, just amazing on keeping the uptime on our Wrath of the Berserker. Other than that, 20% damage reduction is always great, and +4 ranks to all skills is also always great because that increases our frenzy damage and it further reduces the cooldown of Wrath of the Berserker. So ideally, you want to have this greater affix of max resource, but if you don't have it, that's fine. Use whatever Shaco you have. I was lucky with this one. You want to masterwork max resource at least 2 times. If one of your crits lands on cooldown reduction, that's actually ideal in my opinion, because it helps with the up-down of Wrath of the Berserker. Then, Shroud of False Death. Here, you want to triple masterwork all stats. If one of the crits lands on max life, that's fine. Other two affixes are not really important. Pain Gorger gauntlets have been reworked, so now that this effect also benefits on crits and overpowers, which makes it a lot better than what it used to be. It also has some amazing stats for us, even has additional sources of cooldown reduction, which are usually not available to us on gloves, so that's really nice. So here you want to triple masterwork basic skills. Again, if one of your crits lands of cooldown reduction, that is actually quite fine as well. No need to boost up attack speed, we already have plenty of it as it is. And of course, you want to make sure you get as close to the maximum 125 here on the power as you can. For the pants, we're going with Thibault's Will. That's of course because of this max resource. Try to triple crit that, try to get the GA the way I did here. You don't have to focus too much on the legendary power. We do get up to 20% increased damage while unstoppable, and our ultimate is making us unstoppable all of the time, so we always benefit from that. However, even without that, you will find that we deal more than enough damage. We don't really rely on this power for it. Just focus on the max resource first, even if this power is in the lower range. And if you can try triple crit that, that would be great. If not, try to double crit it at the very least. And then we have the brand new item which really enables these basic skills to be so powerful this season, Hooves of the Mountain God. All of the affixes on this item are amazing for us. We first and foremost want to make sure you get this as close to 100 power as possible, because this is just a huge multiplier for us. And then try to get belligerence up. To be honest, this masterwork is not the greatest. So you will see in the gameplay portion, I easily cleared bit 80, and this is not the best example of these hooves. However, I wasn't about to spend 100 extra billion gold for a minuscule increase, so that's fine. Just focus on getting this power as max as possible, and then if you can get a GA on belligerence, that would be ideal. If you can get at least double crit on belligerence, that would be also ideal. Some move speed is always nice, and some basic attack speed is always nice. Like for example, 45% attack speed just on these boots is actually insane, and it easily hits 100% attack speed cap on the first attack speed bucket, which is something that I will also talk about. But basically, just try to hit belligerence. Anything extra is more than welcome. Try to hit 100% damage if you can. For the weapon number 1, Ancestral Mace, we're going with Strength Max Life Crit Strike Damage. Your masterworking should be chance for Frenzy to hit twice and damage while Wrath of the Berserker is active. So other than having a GA on Strength, which I don't have, this is actually an ideal weapon, and this is how your masterworking should be. Double critting your Strength and critting your chance for Frenzy to hit twice. You crit that once. That is going to be enough to hit the 100% cap, which basically multiplies your damage by 2, because you're gonna hit 2 times instead of once, right? Anything more than 100% does nothing. So this is actually the ideal scenario here. For the aspect, we're going with Moonrise. This is just a huge source of damage multiplication, more attack speed. So for our second item, we're going with Shard of Urathiel. This is an amazing item for us because it also has amazing affixes and it's just another huge source of damage multiplication. Try to get this power as close to 150 as possible. Try to triple crit max resource. Try to get a GA max resource. I failed in these things, so I could be doing even more damage. I could be having well over 500 fury, so this is actually not the best item. And also, just see how many basic attack speed we have on this gear. So GA here and GA here basically solves our attack speed for our gear, essentially, because there are 2 attack speed buckets and you can have up to 100% on each. These 2 items alone take care of that. You don't have to get too heavy on attack speed affixes on the gear because you already have more than you will really ever need. For weapon number 3, same story. Max resource, try to triple crit that if you can. Also, this is another huge source of damage multiplication. Try to get as close to 0.5 as possible. And also, this weapon isn't too expensive. I paid like for 10 billion for max resource GA and for the maximum power. So with some extra luck or maybe smart shopping, you can get a similar weapon like this, and it shouldn't cost you an arm or a leg. Or alternatively, just do Belial runs or Uber runs and you will get it. And of course, final weapon is going to be the Grandfather. This is also the best in this slot. Has amazing stats, and it doubles our crit strike damage, which is just insane. The max resource here, I was also really lucky with this. I crafted this Grandfather and I got this GA from the first try, which was very lucky. Ideally, you want a triple crit max resource, but if you land all stat or max life once, that's completely fine too. For the amulet, you want exactly this. You want strength, max resource, and cooldown reduction. So these are the tricks we're using to make sure we have a permanent uptime on Wrath of the Berserker, because we're not using the Rage of Heroic. So we want cooldown reduction and we want max resource because of this aspect on the amulet. Adaptability. Our basic skills deal up to 0.9 damage for each point of primary resource. We're running almost 500 max resource, so you can easily see how much damage that is. Every max resource here gets multiplied, so make sure you have as much as you can on your gear. Ideally, you will want to have a GA on max resource and masterwork it at least twice. So this item slot is just another example of something that is less than ideal, but it is what it is. It gets the job done. For tempers, we're going with Wrath of the Berserker cooldown reduction. For the second one, you can go with crit strike damage or damage while Wrath of the Berserker is active. However, I only decided to go with this damage on one of my items. For others, I'm going with crit strike damage because crit strike damage does get multiplied by the Grandfather, which is something to consider. For ring number 1, we're going with strength. We're going with chance to make enemies vulnerable, because this is going to be our main source of making enemies vulnerable. And also, ideally, third one would be another source of crit strike damage. So this life here is also not ideal. No need to put attack speed because we already have max attack speed as we can on the gear. For tempers, Wrath of the Berserker cooldown reduction and crit strike damage. For masterworking, we want to make sure we at least hit strength 2 times and Wrath of the Berserker cooldown reduction once. For the aspect, we're going with earthquakes. So as you can see, I only have 42%. Max is 60, so I'm also losing almost 20% extra damage just by not having the max aspect. Every time we have an earthquake, we stand in it, and for 4 seconds after, we deal up to 60% more damage. And our rune word are gonna create earthquakes for us. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about that in the rune word portion of the video. And final item is Ring of Starless Skies. Just another huge source of attack speed, crit strike chance, lucky hit chance. Core skills, of course, do nothing for us, however. And it's another 50% extra multiplier for the top of our build. So we have a couple items that actually consume our fury, which are the Hooves of the Mountain God and also Shard of Raphael, and they actually proc this spending your primary resource part on the Ring of Starless Skies and allow us to benefit from that as well. Ideally, you want to try and triple crit your crit strike chance because I already have more than enough attack speed. So I will definitely be re-rolling that attack speed and focusing on crit strike chance instead, and that's going to be in the planner as well. Let's talk about runes and gems now. So rune number 1, we're going to put this into the armor slot. It's going to be Lith and Tech. So while we stand and fight, we will be creating these earthquakes naturally. And every time we stand on one, we gain this huge buff from the earthquakes aspect. So we're going to have this on pretty much permanently all the time without even really thinking about it. Second part is going to be on our weapon. It's going to be Ahu Zan. So a lucky hit up to 100% chance against non-healthy enemies will be causing guaranteed crit strikes and overpowers for 1/3 of a second. This is especially good to proc our passive that provides us more multiplicative damage every time we overpower. So this will be proccing on a pretty consistent basis and is the main source of our overpowers. This isn't a huge source of our damage, but it still adds a little bit on top of everything else. Of course, if you need something more defensive minded, you can put, for example, Tool that will cause the enemies to freeze and create Frost Nova, but this is the setup that works the best in my opinion. On all other gear, we're gonna put rubies for strength, and for the rest of the weapons, we're gonna put emeralds for more crit strike damage. Of course, you can mix and match this how you want. You can also, for example, put 2 emeralds here to multiply your crit strike damage, and then instead of rubies, you can put the other rune word here on the pants. That part is optional, so you can mix and match that however you choose. Now let's talk about seasonal things and seasonal mechanics. For the catalyst, I went with Disintegrate simply because it has the lowest cooldown, it's always on. I find that it's the best out of all of the other options here, but doesn't really matter ultimately what you pick. For the infusion, I went with Nebulous Extract because it adds a little bit more of extra damage reduction. For the Arcana, we're going with Reactive Ooze for more maximum resource generation. It goes well with all the things that actually spend our Fury, like the Hooves, Remeladny, and Shard of Arathiel, so it just allows us to kind of get a little bit more back when we hit with Frenzy. We're going with Bottled Wind. This is our only source of barrier, so every time we invoke our Catalyst, we get some barrier for 4 seconds, which is just a little bit nice to keep us extra tanky. You can replace this with Shifting Powder, but I found that we're already capped in move speed anyway, so it doesn't really matter all that much. And for the third part, we went with Body Charm, helps to execute opponents, and this is actually 40% for non-elites, just gonna help the clear speed. Now, let's talk a little bit about some tricks that we're actually using to bring down our Wrath of the Berserker. You might have noticed that I put the Catalyst on the same slot as our ultimate, and the reason why is because of this legendary gem that says that our catalytic skill gains 25% cooldown reduction, and because we put our Catalyst on Wrath of the Berserker slot, this makes our Wrath of the Berserker a catalytic skill in that regard, so we benefit from that. That's why we basically have a permanent uptime on it, and every time you use your shout, it's going to further decrease the cooldown because of the martial glyph in the Paragon, which we'll talk about just in a second. Our second gem, as always, Idle from Below, more strength, max life, and unhindered, which is just great. And the third one is going to be Will Breaker for another 40% extra physical damage, which is just really great for us. And before we jump into Paragon, one other very important thing to note is that Elixir of Resourcefulness gives us 25 extra resource, which does get multiplied thanks to our amulet. So just something to keep in mind. This is the setup that I'm using. Elixir of Resourcefulness, Ancient Times, Redamin Buzz, and Soothing Spices. You want to make sure you have these on as much as you can. At the very least, Elixir should always be on. Everything else is optional. As you can see, I'm well above the armor cap, and also my resistances are pretty okay. Fire res and poison res are the most important ones in my opinion. Cold res, shadow res is a little bit lacking, but this build is pretty tanky, so not really something you have to really concern yourself about. Alright guys, let's talk about Paragon now. So you need around 200 Paragon points to fully unlock the build. This is easily achieved by already being in Paragon level, let's say 180, as long as you have all the reputation bonuses from various towns. The order of things is somewhat important, I will explain it, but ultimately, as always, as long as you hit both bonuses for every glyph, and as long as you select every legendary node, ultimately that's really the only thing that matters. Everything else is just a bonus. However, there is an order of things, and there is a reason why I selected them in which order, so I would just quickly go over every board and talk about why it's actually here. So first, the starting board, we're going with Wrath. So for every 5 dexterity, it also increases our crit strike damage, and the second effect multiplies our crit strike damage, and that further gets multiplied by Grandfather. I always put these crit strike damage glyphs first because here is the biggest source of normal nodes. That means that every other extra point that you have nowhere else to spare, you can select these dexterities in the range. As you can see, every single one is 15 extra crit strike damage, but that also gets multiplied even further, so that's actually a bit misleading. It's even more than that. Our board number 2 will be Blood Rage. So this is just 45% X multiplier the second you click on this node. That's why it's here, because it has the most immediate impact. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, around 10 levels you need to get to here. You just hit it immediately and you feel the immediate burst of damage because we are berserking all the time. Then our glyph number 2 will be Challenger. It just grants more bonus to elites. It's a multiplicative bonus for more damage. Paragon node number 3 is what people usually put as number 2 because of all of these Fury bonuses, but I already explained why Blood Rage is a number 2. This is a number of preference. If you have enough Paragon, that ultimately it doesn't really matter all that much, but I feel you get the bigger power spike from Blood Rage than you do from these Fury nodes, at least while you are leveling. Later, it doesn't really matter. Board number 3, therefore, is Weapons Master, another source of damage multiplication, but this time we are starting with these nodes that are, of course, multiplying our damage. So we have this one that gives us more fury, and of course, these magic nodes as well. For the glyph number 3, we're going with Ambidextrous. Not only does it provide us more damage, but it also grants bonus to all magic nodes within range. So this allows us to get even more maximum fury, because this glyph is going to increase the value of these 3 in range. My glyph currently is only level 53, so it doesn't increase it by all that much, but if you increase the further levels of the glyph, you will see that it multiplies your damage because of this interaction. Look at my glyph levels: 56, 45, 54, 53. You know, you don't have to have maxed out glyphs to get a lot of damage out of this build. Board number 4 is going to be Warbringer. This legendary node doesn't matter all that much. What matters more are all these maximum fury nodes. So especially this one that gives us up to 24, which is really nice. And if you have a Shroud, which I'm recommending in the build, we will not struggle with hitting any of these rare node bonuses, so don't worry about that. Make sure you pick everything that increases your fury, so you have it here and you have it here. This will be in the planner, of course, so you can reference it yourself. Glyph number 4 is going to be Martial. This, in combination with our Shout, is going to further decrease the cooldown of our Rupture, of our Wrath of the Berserker. So even though I have like 0.9 second downtime, my Wrath of Berserker is actually active all the time. And final Paragon board, we're going with Decimator for more multiplicative damage, and final glyph is going to be Revenge. Dealing Thorns damage increases all of our damage, and thanks to our Shroud gives us access to Thorns damage by giving us points into Outburst and Tough as Nails. This combination provides Thorns damage every time our opponents hit us, and then we get the damage bonus as well. Alright guys, and now for the gameplay portion of this video. But before I show you the gameplay, just a couple of things that I want to further elaborate as far as attack speed on this build is concerned. We have a ton of attack speed. In Diablo 4 there are 2 buckets, 2 caps so to speak. Each one has 100% limit. So you can in theory have up to 200% extra attack speed from different sources. This build does hit that. So that's important to keep in mind when you're gearing, to make sure what source of attack speed is on which bucket. Generally speaking, your skills and special abilities are in one bucket, your attack speed sources on gear and your weapon attack speed are in another. But there are other abilities that don't always follow this convention. So I haven't tested this myself, however, I'm looking at this in Max Rolls page, so if I'm wrong, then they're wrong as well. Essentially, cap 1, we easily hit that, because we have our Moonrise on our weapon. This gives us 20% attack speed. Duelist is another 12. So these two things are 32, which means that we need 68 attack speed bonuses from the gear to hit the cap, which is easily achieved. Like, as you can see from this, I have 45% here just from boots, another 48 just from the sword. So anything else extra, like on the Ring of Starless Skies, does nothing further. So just something to keep in mind when gearing. As long as you're hitting that 100%, that's fine. So attack speed and basic attack speed is in that same bucket of attack speed. Now, the second bucket is easily reached by this combination, which is Frenzy gives us 60% and Rupture gives us 40. These two things alone are filling out our bucket number 2. And then we have 200% extra attack speed. I just wanted to clarify that in case you're gearing up, you don't know what are the breakpoints, just to explain that part a little bit further. Anyway, without further ado, the gameplay is remarkably simple. We are keeping the uptime of Wrath of Berserker, we are casting the War Cries, we are casting Rupture, and then we are slamming with Frenzy, and that's it. And once every couple of seconds, we are refreshing our Rupture, our Shrouds are decreasing the cooldowns of everything else, and we want to make sure we always have Wrath of the Berserker. Even though we have all the things draining our Fury, we never run out of Fury as long as we're in combat. Look at how many times I can attack in a second. So it's like at least 1, 2, 3. I'm attacking at least 10 times a second. It's super crazy, it's super fast, I love it, it's super nice. I also cleared Pit 80, which I'm gonna show you in a second, so it's not a build that's like a gimmick or anything just because it's off meta. It's still very competitive, so it's such a really nice, easy, fun way to play. And also the speed version of the build does use leap, so we're also leaping around in combat. Look how fast I can leap. So just once every 3 seconds. And this also gets further reduced by the shout, so it's just a nice, amazing, fast-paced build to play. If you ever wanted to just be in a complete rage and demolish everything in your sight, well, now is your chance to do it. And now I'm just going to quickly show you the recording of the Pit 80 that I cleared fairly recently. So just a couple of things to consider. This gear, even though it is optimized, it can also go so much further. So as I mentioned earlier, this is not an easy build to gear to because you need to hit these greater affixes ideally if you want to stack up as much fury as you possibly can. You need to be a little bit lucky with masterworking too. It's very expensive on the masterworking side. Even though a couple of items need further masterworking, I spent over 100k up the side just by doing it. But thankfully, this season is pretty easy on the masterworking materials. Just run dungeons and strong rooms. The new dungeons are really fun. I'm having tons of fun with it. So it's not super hard to get there. Just put in a little bit more time. That's why this build is ideal for a mid-season build where you already have these materials, where you already have sparks. Of course, mythics are not needed, but they really elevate the build. Try to get at least a Shaco. If you can't get your hands on anything else, it's really going to help you a ton. But yeah, as you can see here, I'm melting these guys on Pit 80. This is off meta, but this is not a gimmick build. I just cast Rupture. Rupture spreads Pain Gorgers around, and I melt everything with Frenzy. Oh, look how fast I'm attacking. Like, it just goes bam, 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 and then I'm just on to the next level. And so, yeah, there's not really a whole lot for me to tell you guys here. This is not super involved. Just cast Rupture to get the second speed bucket to 100%. It's always available because we lowered the cooldown. Cast Shouts when they're ready. Make sure you always cast Wrath of the Berserker because it gives us Berserking, it gives us more Fury, it gives us Unstoppable. And that's it. Just frenzy away, kill stuff, and it's a really fun build to play. And the best part about it is that you can easily pivot into Launching Strike. It's so easy because the gear is exactly the same. You didn't waste time by masterworking into all of this fury. You use the same setup for Launching Strike as well. So it's super easy to pivot into a meta build for Barbs this season if that's something you want to do. And now we're just gonna fast forward into the boss kill just to make sure. There you go. So we did clear Pit 80. So this build easily clears Pit level 90 as long as you put a little bit more time into it. And then as long as you follow all the items and the setup on the planner and in the video, you really shouldn't have any issues. Of course, if you have any questions, just shoot me a comment and I will answer as soon as I can. And there you have it, guys. That has been my rendition of Frenzy Barb for Season 9 from A to Z. Everything you needed to know to set up your own character. And of course, as always, the planner is going to be down below in the video. It's going to be pinned in the comments as well as in the description. There are going to be a couple of variants. The main variant is the one that has all the mythics and it has all 3 shouts. The speed variant switches 1 shout for a leap so that we can just leap around in combat. And there's also a no mythic variant that you can follow along if you haven't been lucky enough to get these coveted mythic uniques. So as you've seen from the example, I cleared Pit 80 with ease, with suboptimal gear, with glyphs that were level like 45. So with just a little bit more optimization, we can definitely push this into 90 plus. And the great thing about this build is even though it's off meta, it's super easy to pivot into Launching Strike because the gear and Paragon is exactly the same. You just have to switch a couple of tempers and you have to switch one couple of runes and skills and you're basically there. So anyway, did you guys like it? If you did, let me know down in the comments below. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot it at me. I always do my best to reply to everything. I will be on a vacation from 1st of August, so I might not be available for a full week. But after that, if I haven't answered your question, just so you know why, and I will definitely get back to you as soon as I can. So this is gonna be it for me, guys. As always, I really appreciate your time and your support. I'm really glad you enjoy my videos. So once again, if you like what I'm doing, please give this video a like and a sub because it really helps me out tremendously. That's gonna be it for me, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.